It's 5:45. Well, it's confession time. Albino and Adagio playing again on Greatest Hits Radio, first confession of the week. But I think we need to set the standard also for
David Jacobs.
David Jacobs coming round again. Thank you, David. With the drinks trolley. What's our first drink of the week?
Well, I'm going to go with an IPA, a session IPA today, and mainly because I like the name of it. It's called Laser Juice.
Oh,
Look at Matt's eyes.
I don't like the sound of that.
I can't be the only one.
It's really tasty. It's from a Bristol brewery. Laser Juice, 4.2%. It's gluten-free and vegan as well. So, ticks all those boxes.
All right. I think just a half on a Monday, because Mondays feel wrong.
Yeah, just a half.
Okay, all right. Anyway, thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Matt's going to love it, of course. So today's confession comes from Nobby. Nobby, thank you very much indeed. I mean, I do... Names are changed, don't they?
Sometimes. Yeah, go on.
Hi, Simon and team. In the late 70s, I joined the local fire brigade as a young fireman. Just a note, we were all firemen back in those days. Firefighters we became, but firemen is what we were. I was working on Blue Watch at the fire station in our local town. The firemen had a whole repertoire of practical jokes that they used to play on each other. Most usually, not surprisingly, all involved soaking each other with water.
Of course. Well, what else are you going to do?
What could be going on there?
Nobby says, when you had as many hoses as we had, it was a gift, really. I'm sure you did.
Right.
It's just a...
okay.
It's just a fire reference. I'm sure you'd all be the same, he says. If a hose of jet-propelled water was part of your work setup, you'd be tempted as well. There must have been people over the years, Father Simon, that you would have liked to have hosed down. Well, let me think about that.
Here comes the list.
Yes. That would be a power hose. Take that. In one series of running practical jokes, the ultimate trap was set as payback. My mate and I filled I have to say...
Don't try this at home.
Don't try it.
Obviously, don't try it at home. It's not vastly original either, Nobby, but anyway. My mate and I filled a dustbin full of cold water and we hauled it to the 3rd floor of the fire station. We had closed the rear fire appliance doors, so when the returning fire engine had come back from a call, the fireman who was our target, Smooth Sid, would have to get out of the fire engine to open the doors to allow the driver to drive the engine into the station. And this was right underneath our dustbin. So we lined up our dustbin and we waited patiently for Smooth Sid and his team to come back. The trap was set. Suddenly, and without warning, a uniformed policeman appeared in the station yard. He could have chosen 10 other open doors to enter the building, but for some reason, maybe guided by a higher mischievous force, he started to walk to our strategically closed door to enter the station. We recognised him as well, but we're going to call him Constable Knapweed for the purposes of this confession. Dick and I looked at each... Oh, Dick's the guy. Oh, Dick's his mate. Okay,
Yeah.
Dick and I looked... So it's Nobby and Dick. Okay.
We changed that already, haven't we?
Almost certainly.
Goodness me. Get the Greatest Hits lawyers on.
Anyway, we looked at each other and without a word realised that this was an opportunity we could not refuse. We had grown up on the Beano, Father Simon. We knew what our sacred duty was. It is what Roger the Dodger would have done.
Oh, yeah.
And so, therefore, okay with us. But as an excuse in a court of law, that doesn't really work. And so, with due ceremony, the dustbin was upturned and 40 gallons of ice-cold water hurtled 50 feet right on top of Officer Knapweed. His helmet fell off with the force of the water. You could hear his screaming and cursing as he was soaked through to his, what I can only imagine, were his police-issue underpants. Do the police give you underwear?
It's a good question.
Yes, they do.
Do they?
They do,
How do
yes.
you know that?
Multicoloured underwear and blue underwear because of the blue line.
The thin blue line.
The thin blue line, correct.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yes.
A lot of inside knowledge.
Yes.
No.
Anyway, Knapweed picked himself up and exited the station yard, shaking his fist theatrically at whoever had subjected him to this humiliation. He returned to the police station to make a formal complaint to his sergeant.
Yeah.
Not surprisingly, this complaint was laughed at by all his mates at the police station and was never followed up. We heard later he had only come into the fire station to warn the firemen that a traffic warden was on his way to advise the watch to remove their cars illegally parked on double yellow lines at the rear of the station, something he certainly never did ever again. My mate and I would often see Officer Knapweed over the following years at assorted incidents. We never dared introduce ourselves as his dustbin assassins. The quiet satisfaction of knowing what we had done and what we had got away with was reward enough. But that was then, and I realise now that the thin blue line needs to be cherished and not ridiculed, and that pranks like this only bring the emergency services into disrepute, and pranks are juvenile and never justified. And on reflection, I didn't really deserve to be forgiven at all, so I'll just turn myself in, says Nobby, who sounds as though he might have had a change of heart there towards the end of the... Oh,
yes, that was smooth. Goodness me.
That was a handbrake turn.
Billy Boxing loves that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, very much. So it sounds like Nobby realises the error of his ways.
Yes.
Sister Susan. So does that give him any credit?
No, I don't think so. Nobby. It's just, I hate practical jokes anyway. And really cold water dumped on anybody is
40 gallons.
not fun. That must be, a shiver went down my spine. It's horrible. That would have been absolutely
I
rubbish.
think that's probably quite dangerous as well.
Yeah, it's just not very nice. Doesn't wash with me, Nobby. So,
wash. Very good. Like that.
yeah, see what I did there? So I don't forgive you.
Are you going to start doing puns as
Maybe.
well?
Wow.
Oh, my goodness me.
Welcome to the church.
Brother from another gutter.
I'm going to forgive, and here's the reason why. What was Officer Knapweed doing?
Knapweed.
Knapweed? Knapweed.
Officer Knapweed was a character in The Herbs.
In The Herbs?
Much loved children TV show. I did a video about that.
Oh,
once.
really?
Yes,
Right. Okay. So, Officer Knapweed. What was he doing just wandering into the fire station? I'm pretty sure I'm not a lawyer, but I'm going to say you're not allowed to just wander in.
He was warning them because their cars were parked illegally.
It was very easy to do that by just knocking at the door. And if he had knocked at the door, then maybe he wouldn't have been covered in icy water. So, for that reason, Officer Knapweed, Knapweed.
No, it's a P.
Knapweed.
There we go.
Unbelievable. I choose to forgive.
Right. Okay, I was convoluted. People's verdict, though, that's what we need. You text 61054. So today's confession was from Nobby the firefighter and his despicable tale of pouring 40 gallons of water over Constable Knapweed, who didn't take it very well, official complaints and so on. People's verdict is in. Here it is.
So John in Exeter says, forgiven, why did the constable enter through that specific door when he could have entered from any door? He should have seen it coming. Ivy and Chiswick, I agree with Susie. I'd be fuming if a whole dustbin of water was thrown on me. The poor constable must have been traumatised. But Mike in Chester says, I agree with Matt. Why on earth did the police officer just waltz into the station?
Because he was trying to help them because all their cars were double
Try
parked.
telling Mike in Chester that. That's what I'm saying.
I did say that to Mike in Chester, but Mike in Chester I don't think was listening properly. Anyway, if you ever... So Nobby gets the smart speaker, and if you fancy one, send us a fine confession. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. So it's confession time. Here we go. And checking in live now at the UK's #1 pub in the Saloon Bar. Checking in with the landlady and ace producer, Sister Susie, just checking in on how things are going down there.
Hello, hello. Well, it's all Christmassy because the Christmas trees arrived today, so feeling very festive.
Oh, that's a very lovely thing. And also just arrived, there's young David Jacobs with
David.
drinks. Cholly, what are you choosing for us today?
Well, noticed lots of sniffly noses and sore throats, so how about a hot water, a honey lemon, a little bit of ginger, and if you so wish, a nip of whiskey, just to...
Oh, hello.
You know.
Oh, you've got a cold as well, have you now? Oh, excellent. Well, here we go with today's confession. It comes from Terry. By the way, obviously we're edging towards the festive period, and I'm thinking Christmas confessions obviously will be a very lovely thing. Advent calendars, for example. The Advent calendars will be turning up very shortly in people's homes. There'll be loads of Advent calendar-based confessions.
Oh, yes, definitely, yeah.
Yes.
Christmas party confessions, Christmas present.
Dear.
Anyway, that kind of stuff. We'd like to hear from you, Simon at Greatest Hits. Oh, sorry, confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Terry says, Father Simon and the Confessional Collective. Let's set the scene. Back in the early 90s, when we were all just growing up and either just buying or doing up our houses. It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Me and my mate decided that we would arrange to go out for a pint with the boys in a bar full of noise. As always, we would give a round-robin call just to make sure everyone knew where to meet and at what time. I was put in charge... This confession sort of veers off in an unusual direction, I think. I was put in charge of calling Graham. Graham had just started working for a national cigarette company as the rep who would race up and down the A1 flogging his dodgy wares. Don't think we've had a cigarette...
No, we haven't.
salesman.
Intriguing.
Well, how?
Graham on this occasion did not answer the phone and it went straight to voicemail. In the moments when you decide to either leave a message or hang up, I had an idea. As I was using my mate's new mobile, a very sleek one it was too, it gave me the fun idea to put on a different accent and give the name of Mr. Stevens from, shall we say, London, and inform Mr. Ritchie that his new Pontiac had a serious fault. You've got to do so. It's got a serious fault. And he would be advised to contact the Pontiac garage. You've got to contact the garage for further information, as the fault could lead to a catastrophic disaster. Thanks, Mr. Stevens. I meant the answer phone message to just sound a little bit jovial for a giggle, you know. I put the phone down. Didn't think anything else. Nothing came of the call, and it was forgotten by both myself and the friend whose phone I had borrowed to make the call. That was until we went out the following Friday and we're listening to the trials and tribulations of a working cigarette salesman. These conversations take place over a number of weeks. Graham was telling us that he had a call from the head of the Pontiac garage that there was a fault with the car. Graham, in his wisdom, called the local garage and explained about the call and asked what he needed to do and who was Mr. Stevens. The guys at the local garage were obviously unaware of any issue. However, knowing Pontiacs, they said it would be wise to contact the main dealer and they may be able to assist. So he did that. Pontiac main dealer was very concerned and said he was unaware of any issues that could lead to a disaster. However, he advised Graham to contact Pontiac UK, but not to use the car in the meantime. Known for being the best cigarette salesman north of Watford, taking away his steed left him helpless, and also no transport for him and his future wife, Brenda, a woman of few words, but when they did come, you didn't want to be on the receiving end.
Okay.
Right,
yeah.
She missed a night out with the girls every week. She missed a night out as she missed a trip to the gym every week. Her quarterly trip to have a cut and blow dry with Warren. And had to go for a weekly shopping trip using public transport.
Oh, imagine.
The car had now stood still over the weekend and for every single week until the offices of Pontiac UK opened up for a fresh week of automotive chaos. First thing Monday morning, Graham called Pontiac UK. The team were extremely helpful and said that they would now go and look into his situation personally, but they would probably have to contact Pontiac HQ in America. And to do that, they needed Sandra. Unfortunately, Sandra, the bilingual person, wouldn't be in until midday as they were trying out a new flexi-time working system.
What?
Still concerned for the car and Graham's welfare, they advised that it would be a poor decision to drive the car and insisted it should not be driven while they're waiting for this decision. Then we learnt that Sandra had gone on holiday and wouldn't be back for 3 weeks. But we definitely shouldn't do anything until she got back. Still, the car stood on the drive. When Sandra eventually returned, having caught pneumonia on her holiday and having to go off for another week, things started to move, finally. She advised him to have a complimentary checkup at his local garage. Graham arranged this, but his dismay couldn't get an appointment until a fortnight on Wednesday.
Wow.
Oh, no.
How many missed sales had Graham had? How many missed gym sessions and cut and blow dries with Warren had Brenda had? I never owned up to Graham that I was Mr. Stevens of Pontiac fame, and there never was any problem with his car. Oops. I plead, sort of guilty, but I'd like to be released, please, by the Holy Trinity of brothers, Simon and Matt and Sister Susie. Well, I'm not quite sure which way this is going to go, but let's check in with Sister Susie there. Well, he thought it was like an innocent little prank, but as a result of which a car stood immobile for like half the year, And poor Brenda had to use public transport and couldn't go and see Warren for a cut and blow dry.
It's terrible behaviour there, Terry. Now, I kind of was on your side because it did escalate quite a lot, of which weren't your fault. Like, you didn't know that Sandra was going to be on holiday. You didn't know she was going to catch pneumonia. And also, I feel like that Pontiac should probably maybe have known or been able to get an answer a bit quicker. But it was 6 months that car stood still, and for that reason, I don't think I can forgive you. I nearly did.
Okay, so you're saying absolutely not forgiven?
Not forgiven.
Okay, well, I wonder which way this is going to go. Brother from another gutter.
Well, I think Susie's absolutely right. There loads of things happened there that Terry couldn't possibly have known were going to happen. I mean, I don't understand why Sandra's the only one in the office who can call America. As far as I know, they pretty much speak a lot of English over there as well. So why is it all down to Sandra? She goes on holiday and she can't come back for 3 weeks and suddenly no one else can pick up a phone?
No.
And also, Brenda, get on a bus, Brenda. What's wrong with getting on the bus? I'm not going to my gym. I'm not going shopping on the bus. Get on the bus.
And what's so special about Warren? No, don't answer that
exactly,
question.
and about Warren. And so, yes, and selling your cigarettes. Everything going up in smoke. So for that reason, I choose to forgive.
I'm surprised you didn't pick up on this. Think how many lives might have been
that's true.
saved by this little prank.
Yes, very true.
Anyway, people's verdict, 61054. First word is Simon. Do you forgive Terry, yes or no? The people's verdict on tonight's confession, which saw Graham the fag salesman's car stuck for a very long time on his drive, and it didn't need to be like that. Anyway, here's the verdict.
Jimmy says not forgiven. Even when my car's at the garage, I find it so annoying getting the bus or train. I'd be absolutely fuming if my car was out of action for months and months. Helen from Fleet says, forgiven. Why didn't he just call Mr. Stevens back on the number he had called from to check who he was and what could be wrong with the car? I know it was the 90s, but we still had 1471 or whatever it was then. And Kate in Rotherham says not forgiven. Wow, what a confession, first of all. If I was Mr. Stevens, I'd be running for the hills. I agree with Susie, and that was his friend's livelihood, life, in fact. I bet his life with the wife was unbelievable. Can't forgive, unfortunately. He was no friend.
Okay, interesting reaction, you have to say. Your confession would be very welcome if we use it. We'll exchange it for a smart speaker. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk. Right, it's 5:45. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, so confession time. I'm sure I can survive this one now.
Just about,
yeah. Okay, so thank you very much, Dee, for the confessions which have been coming in, and thanks.
Oh, David Jacobs with his trolley.
Also, for David, for paying also for the trolley and for the drinks.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is our drink of the day, Suze?
Well, I know it's not December quite yet, but it is tomorrow, and we were talking about Christmas confessions, so I'm going to go early, and I'm going to say, have a glass of mulled wine.
Oh, what a call.
It's a bit early for mulled wine.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Absolutely fine.
That's a good
mulled
idea.
Wine, yeah.
So you never know quite how alcoholic it is. That's the issue there. Okay, today's confession comes, as I mentioned earlier, from Petrock. Thank you, Petrock.
Wow.
Father Simon and the generous congregation of Cardinals.
Very good.
I would like to seek forgiveness for the 100% true event. Whenever that always makes me
I'm
think,
doubting it now.
probably not. Anyway, Petrock says it's 100% true. And it happened in the early 80s, when I was a young and apparently good-looking man with lots of chat. At the time, I lived in a small village in Essex, and I was, I admit, something of a ladies' man. One Friday evening, I was in my local pub having pre-drinks before heading to Poseurs, the #1 nightclub.
No, it wasn't called that. But you've obviously changed
I did change the name of the club. I did change
It's a great name.
That's so good.
It's such a good name.
Anyway, so I was off to Poseurs, the #1 nightclub in Essex, with my friend Grayson. So that's Petrock and Grayson off to the nightclub. I was still having my first pint when the landlady said, "Here, Petrock, there's a Miss Story in the other bar. She's asking for you." Ah, I thought, my girlfriend. Or actually, more accurately, I thought, one of my girlfriends.
Right, here we go.
I replied to the landlady, "Tell her I'm not here, lol."
In the 80s.
Because I don't think we said that then, but anyway.
Yeah.
This was not, you understand, a Miss Story evening. That seemed to be that, and everything was going well, until in walked another of my current partners.
What?
Called Kathy. My colour drained slightly, but as she knew I was going out, she had half expected to find me in the pub, so we exchanged pleasantries and shared a drink. Now, what happened next was not great because another young lady,
I don't believe
Foxy, walked in.
Fox.
What?
You might have guessed that Foxy was also going out with me at the time. Now this, says Petrock, was getting tricky. Foxy was scowling at me because of Kathy, but being a lady, she ignored me to order a pint of lager and some pork scratchings at the bar. I mean, that's,
Good for her.
that's
Quite right too.
As definitions go, that
Excellent.
works for me. Well, the pub had gone rather quiet by now because they'd all worked out what was happening and they seemed to sense something might be up. Once Debbie had the pint, she walked over to me and Kathy and said, I know the girls are confusing.
Who's
Once
Debbie?
Debbie had the pint,
Lots of names.
she walked over to me and Kathy and said, "You having a nice time, are you?" I said, "Yes, and sorry." However, by now, Miss Story had re-entered the bar. So now, all my three young ladies were together. This had never happened before. This was going to be painful. Now, really, I have to say, I think I was quite unfortunate. I mean, what are the chances? I don't think I was being too much of a cad, as I had many interests in those days, and I needed 3 girlfriends to cover all of those bases.
What?
No harm, no foul, as I think Matt might say. Well, of course, I realise now that I had what was coming, as I am a man of mature taste and wisdom. Everybody tells me that now. But back in the pub, with Miss Story, Debbie, and Kathy, all of them glowering at me, and the pub was silent. Glowering, also raging, also seething, all at the same time, and I stared back. It was at this point that Debbie, very, very slowly, took her pint of ice-cold lager and also very, very slowly raised it above my head. "You, Petrock," she said, "are a pig."
Yeah.
Yep.
And with that, she poured the pint of lager all over me. This rather annoyingly soaked my nice white shirt and leather trousers.
Leather trousers.
Soaking wet, I was lost for words, and the ladies all left together to no doubt have a few words about me in private. The landlord offered me a bar towel and a drink, and his wife offered me a hairdryer to use while she rinsed and tumble-dried and ironed my shirt so
No
that I could
chance.
still go clubbing. Nothing could stop me, Father Simon, not even the wrath of 3 women. The landlady kindly returned my clothes sometime later. What were you doing when you were... Anyway, whereupon Grayson and I departed for the Poseurs nightclub to seek more dancing and some young ladies. I think we got the measure of petrol. I would like to ask forgiveness, not from Miss Story, Kathy or Debbie, as they, I'm sure, eventually forgave me, but forgiveness from the landlord and his wife for the wasted lager that went all over the floor, and especially to the landlady who washed, tumbled and ironed my shirt on a busy night in the pub. And that meant her husband was extremely busy until I got my clothes back. Now, that, it seems to me, as a final few lines, is only there for one reason, and that is to get Susie on her
Yes.
side. What with Susie being a pub woman and all that. So I think I know which way this is going to go. Sister Susie, first of all.
Yes, there is absolutely no chance of forgiveness from here. Do you know what? I've seen very similar situations run out in the pub, and you have to be very careful what you say, because some people might have more than one girlfriend. They shouldn't, but some people do, and they bring them to their favourite pub, and it's really hard, but there's no chance. I wouldn't have washed and dried your clothes. I would have said you deserved it, and you definitely did. Rude. It's fine if you're honest with them, but you weren't honest with them, so I don't forgive you at all.
What's he doing? Is he standing in his underpants whilst all his clothes
I'm
are...
guessing that's what's happening.
Yes,
because
yes.
well, I'm not sure she's not laundering his leather trousers. And by the way, leather trousers by themselves should have been not
Quite
forgiven.
clean.
Get out with your leather pants.
I'm guessing that Petrock stood there posing in front of the landlady. That's what I'm thinking.
Petrock, very much not a stranger to mirrors. That's going to be my assessment of him. However, I'm going to forgive because I think those other women, they all dodged a bullet, didn't they? Because they all got in. They are now no longer in Petrok's life. And frankly, they're better off without him because of all the beer. And how's she what? She's just drying the trousers and the shirt. It's still going to stink of beer, so he's not going to have any luck in poseurs later on anyway. So for that reason, I'm going to forgive, but with a massive caveat about the trousers. There's a sense.
Massive caveat about the trousers.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
All right. People's verdict, please. 61054. First word is Simon. Do you forgive Petrok? Yes or no? Merely moments ago, tonight's confession from Petrok, who's basically going out with 3 women at the same time. They all turned up at the pub. He got a pint over him, probably what he deserved. But anyway, here comes the people's verdict.
Yeah, not too surprisingly, no one is forgiving tonight. Jackie in Chester, not forgiven, ridiculous. Why did the landlady help him out and wash his shirt for him? He should have been kicked out. Matt in Stockport, not forgiven. Foxy seemed to morph into Debbie halfway through that confession. If you can't remember the girls' names, he needs to try harder.
That's true.
And Vicky in Northampton says, clearly this narcissist is completely unforgiven. This was less a confession and more an opportunity to brag. Susie's quite right, not a chance of forgiveness. What strikes me as a little ironic, though, is that the man who thought an AC/DC T-shirt was appropriate for a night out at the Palladium is lecturing someone else on dress sense.
That is a very...
Quite right.
Very,
well done, Vicky.
very wise comment.
Yeah.
Your confession is welcome, please. Confessions at greatesthitsradio.co.uk.